Hello and welcome, boys. I can tell I've been watching some Trailer Park Boys because I see boys a lot now. Hello and welcome, I am Zabraxi, and we are going to be talking about something a little interesting today. Video games, $70, $60, $80. Video games prices have been pretty much the same for a long time now, $60 base price for quite a few generations of consoles and games. That may change. And the question is it worth it that they're going to be increasing to $70? Or is it even worth it that they're $60 now? Those are the big questions. So let's take a look. So NBA 2K21, 2K has decided that they are going to make this game launch at $69.99 US dollars. I'm not sure exactly what the equivalent will be in other parts of the world, but for the sake of America and the United States, it is now going to be $70. And that'll be for both the PS5 and the Xbox Series X launches, which has caused a lot of concern for a lot of people, which is understandable. That's an extra $10 on a entertainment industry that arguably is already really pricey to engage in. Regardless of the whole debate on whether or not games deserve to cost $60, there's still the mental capacity or the exercise to think about the fact that you could buy like 3 Blu-rays for a single video game, and that alone allows for a lot of argumentation on whether or not $60 is even like a welcoming or inviting price anyway, especially with games like indie games coming out that are really great, or Game of the Year editions coming out that are like way cheaper. The beauty of this though is at least 2K is going to be very generous, very sweet people, very nice, very giving. They're going to give you $40 extra. Charge you $40 extra instead of $70 to buy the new upgraded version along with the original. So if you want to buy NBA 2K21 on the PS4 and the Xbox One, or the Xbox One, but you also want the better version on the newer consoles, you can save yourself $30 by buying the $100 version, the Mamba Forever Edition, which will come with the current gen version of the game and the next gen version of the game. How sweet of them. How very kind. Now, keep in mind, by the way, that at least for the sake of the Xbox, there's a thing that already exists now, or that will exist with the Xbox Series X, called Xbox Smart Delivery, which shouldn't make this even a thing. But the thing with the Xbox Smart Delivery, as we've mentioned in previous videos, the catch to that system, if you don't know the system, it basically allows for backwards compatibility all the way back from the original Xbox all the way up to the Xbox Series X. The only downside and catch to that system is developers and publishers have to commit to it. We're already going to see that apparently they don't want to, which is so weird because you have companies like CD Projekt Red and Bungie actually already committing to this. So if you want to buy Cyberpunk 2077 for the Xbox One and then you buy an Xbox Series X, you get a free digital copy of the upgraded version of Cyberpunk because you already bought the game. That's great. Same thing with Bungie. Actually, they're doing this with Destiny 2 as well, where Destiny 2, if you own Destiny 2 on the Xbox One right now, when the Xbox Series X comes out, you don't have to rebuy it. You just have the better version because you already own it. That's awesome. But 2K doesn't think so. So they'd rather charge you $40 extra. How sweet. How kind of them. They only charged us $40 instead of $60. Oh, sorry, $70. Is it weird to think that that the whole reason they want to charge $70 is also so they can say that they're gonna save you $70 or $30 if you buy the Mamba Forever Edition? So it sounds like you're getting 50% off because everyone's gonna think it's $60. I don't know. But the thing that's really strange is that companies are already taking advantage of this, and 2K, the sports game, ironically isn't, because, well, sports games are notorious for their microtransactions, obnoxiously so. So to kind of pull back and be a little vulnerable here, I actually really liked sports games for a long time. I used to love playing games like NBA Live or MLB The Show. Actually, one of the first games I bought on my PS4 was the MLB The Show that came out that year. But I used to love it. I'm not talking about just the arcadey ones like NFL Blitz or NHL Hits or whatever. Like, I'm talking genuine sports games. I used to love playing them. But I grew to hate them because the DLC and microtransaction requirements were absurd. And the games just aren't good enough to warrant that much money. And I'm saying that as someone who enjoys that genre of game. I genuinely do. The fact though, that a sports game is not doing it is just the extra, the icing on the cake, if you ask me. To continue further on this whole situation, what makes this more frustrating is the fact that $60 is like already not the baseline price anymore. And we all kind of know this, we just don't want to admit it. If you're going to pay $60 for a game, most AAA titles, or at least a lot of them, if not most, that you don't get the full experience. And this has been going on for a couple generations. People like to think that this is a PS4 and Xbox One exclusive problem, but it's not. If we were to look back at the Xbox 360, a game that I remember doing this pretty aggressively, or pretty poorly especially, was Asura's Wrath, a game I actually genuinely enjoyed. The problem was Asura's Wrath was full price and then didn't have an ending. Yet you had to pay for DLC to get the final chapter of the game. Cause that was dumb. Resident Evil 5, if you guys remember this, Resident Evil 5, when this came out, they announced and released DLC that I had bought because I might have really mixed feelings on Resident Evil 5, but I bought it because I liked the multiplayer side of it. And I went and bought this new DLC that they had released, and I downloaded it, and it was 2 megs. What? Clearly, what had actually happened was this DLC had actually already been done and made before the game released, and not just before the game released, far enough in advance to actually, when the game went gold, when they actually went to production, they were able to put that build of the game onto the disc and then tell people, you cannot access this chunk of the game that's already done that you're technically paying for, but we'll charge you $10 to $15 later for it, and then you're going to download a 2 meg key that says now you can access that. Holy cow, that was insane. And it became a practice that actually became very common over the next few years and still happens to this very day, where there is DLC on the disc. That's ridiculous. We can keep going. We can keep going, by the way. So now something more recent. When Shadow of War first came out, in order to actually fully experience that title, you had to engage in basically loot box microtransactions in the store in order to get the full experience. The game was so designed around this mechanic that when they decided to go back on it because they got so much negative backlash, they admittedly had to completely redesign the entire system or progression system of the game because it was so particularly integrated with these microtransactions. So for people who say, oh, you don't have to engage in them, when the actual fundamental design of the game is built around a particular system, that system is integral to the experience of the player. So, to claim that this system is not integral to the experience of the player strictly because it's in a microtransaction storefront is absurd and disingenuous at best. It's a complete lie to yourself. We can keep going. Assassin's Creed Odyssey requires you to get the full benefit of the experience. If you are someone who does not want to explore every side thing in the game, you have to buy a $10 XP booster, or else you will hit walls in which you cannot experience the main story unless you actively go out and do extra side stuff you may not care about and grind. And this is something that used to be a problem in games, and games got smart about it and introduced a slider or other options to just not have to do extra grindy content if you don't want to. So the point I'm trying to make here is that these games are already not $60 baseline. So to argue that they need to be $70 baseline is already a bit disingenuous. It's already a bit of a lie, and it's really frustrating to look at this from a logical perspective because logically, people come in at bad faith arguments. To say that developers need to make more money, therefore we need to increase pricing by an extra $10 would be a fair logical argument if all of the other variables fit into place. But they don't. Surprise, surprise. People love to charge extra money for microtransactions that are now integral parts of the game. And because of this, and because of the fact that 2K decided they want to increase the price still, which, by the way, if we increase the price to $70, who the hell actually believes that we're going to get less MTX in our games? Anyone actually believe that? Because if you do, holy cow, I love your naivete and I want it badly. Like, really, I envy it. It's just not going to happen. What's going to happen is NBA 2K21 is going to release, and they're going to charge you $70 and have the same amount of microtransactions in there. So what's actually changed? The thing that's kind of ironic about this whole topic, this whole experience, this whole thing that's happened, is I'm genuinely starting to question, seriously, are games even worth $60 anymore? I've wrestled with myself on this for quite a while. I already don't enjoy paying $60 for most game experiences. And I tend to do it only because, one, I genuinely enjoy games to a really high degree. I'm obsessed with them, or whatever you want to call it. But I love to engage in them. I love to study them. I love to dissect them and observe them and figure out everything that's going on in them. I truly appreciate video games like it's high art, like it's the best art form humanity has ever made to this point. So I suck that up and spend $60 when I normally don't want to, because I find value in more than the game itself. And that's very unique to me and to not many people, and that's fine. So I already don't think it's valuable, and I technically have an edge on value because I find value in things that other people wouldn't. We could also get easily into the whole technical side of the argument about development costs versus purchasing profit and revenue that a game could make when it gets made. We could really dissect a lot of this. I have a bunch of notes that I did have here to the side to talk about them. And I don't necessarily want to get lost in that argument, but I did want to put into perspective this high-level view, this average consumer look at whether or not a game needs to be $70. And spoilers, no. If you look very quickly at this problem, games do not need to be $70. In fact, maybe this is a better topic for a different video. There is way more argument that games at $60 are still really highly priced than they are underpriced. But just to put a couple points in here, the average film budget, by the way, is between $90 million and $150 million. We're talking Hollywood AAA film budgets. So keep this as one-to-one as possible. We take the average Hollywood film budget, $90 to $150 million, and we compare that to the average video game budget, which is $60 to $100 million on average across AAA budget games. Yet the game industry as a whole makes over 3 times as much money as the film industry. 3 times! They made 3 times as much revenue as the global box office did last year. I know I'm oversimplifying this. I do know that, and I don't want to get lost into this, but if you're looking at this from face value, $10 extra seems pointless. It seems just overly aggressive and greedy. So I do want to talk about 2 different things though right now. Where do you find value in that game? Like, what makes it $70? 2K has acknowledged that in order to make this work, in order to make it valuable, they need to provide a better value for that $70. So one of 2 things is going to happen. One, that statement is logically hilarious if you really think about it. We're going to charge you $10 extra, and because we need to offset development cost, but we're then going to put more development cost into the game to make it worth $70. Yeah, but like, why weren't you doing that for the 60? Like, that's like someone who's admitted they're wrong, said like it's someone who goes, well, if you paid me $1 more an hour, I would work harder. That's when a boss hears that, they think, oh, this person's not giving their 100% already. So you've openly admitted to screwing us. Dude. Oh, goodness. It gets so bad. It's so bad. You can tell these PR people are not programmers or not mathematicians or statisticians or anybody who has to study logic on any level, because that was a ridiculous statement. So there's 2 types of value to get at, though. There's 2 types of value. There's qualitative value, which is the value of the experience. How unique or how interesting is the experience that you had with this game? And then there's quantitative value, the length of the time, the hours spent in the game. And depending on who you are, people tend to lean one way or the other versus qualitative versus quantitative value. And there's a massive spectrum in between, obviously. People who like want a little bit of both, or lean maybe more towards the uniqueness of the experience more than the time earned. Like for myself, for example, I tend to lean more towards the qualitative value, the experiential value. I care more about a unique and interesting experience more than I care about the time I get out of the game. But other people will fall elsewhere. But I'm not sure most games are even worth the 60 they're already asking for. This is kind of the irony of this whole argument, is now that they're going to be introducing a higher price increase, I'm debating if I even agree with the current price. Hold on, I have an idea. This might bite me in the ass, but I have an idea. I got some Switch games here. Let's drop those there. All right. We've got some Xbox One games, and I got some PS4 games. I just grabbed a chunk of random games because I think, wouldn't it be interesting if I just did a quick look through of the games that I already currently own And how many of them are actually worth the $60 to kind of prove the point here? It wasn't $60, so we'll throw that one to the side. Breath of the Wild, $60 worth? Yes, genuinely worth it. Sonic Force? No, not even close. Screw this game. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe? No. If it was Mario Kart 8 regularly, maybe Deluxe is definitely better, but the problem is, like, the majority of the work for this game has already been done. So the fact that it was $60 anyway when it came out on the Switch is ridiculous. New Super Lucky's Tale. It wasn't 60. To my knowledge, I think it was 40. Yes, actually about worth it. Probably $30, $40 is totally worth it for New Super Lucky's Tale. Dragon Quest XI, genuinely worth $60. Actually great. Astro Chain. It's a tough one. Debatable. I'm going to say maybe closer to $50, maybe $40. I don't know if I'd say it's really a $60 experience, but it was a pretty good game. I just don't think it was like worth a massive amount of praise. It was one of my favorite games of that year, but $60 maybe a bit much, maybe closer to 50 or 40. Absolutely not. Horrible game. Really good game, but the problem is it's already been existing, so $60 isn't really worth it, to be completely honest. A great experience, but $60 for a remake with a little bit of extra content? Yes, Knack was not worth full price. Holy cow, what a waste of my money. It was the most bleh okay PS4 game I've ever played in my life. This is the most disappointing $60 I've probably ever spent in my life. Is it worth $60? No. Is the time spent worth it? No. Is the experience worth it? No. It was horrible. Final Fantasy 15, you should be ashamed of yourself. I actually just did a recent review on Resident Evil 3, the remake here, and it was not worth $60. The experience was exactly what it was before, and it was pretty okay. It was a fine game. I actually enjoyed it. But to also then have it be for like a 4-hour campaign, which is about what it took me, it was about 4 hours. No way. No. Assassin's Creed Odyssey, like we were just talking about it. Is the game worth $60? I actually do. I think so. I think it's a great game. I think it's a great title. The reality, though, for Assassin's Creed Odyssey is that it's not the full price. Like $60, you do need to get that XP booster. And by the way, as someone who didn't buy the XP booster, out of principle, this game would have been a better experience with the XP booster. And then you have like something like Assassin's Creed Origins, which also suffers from massive pacing problems as well. The fact that these games are actually together was kind of just worked out. The fact that both of these games suffer massive pacing problems, but Origins severely suffered pacing problems. Journey to the Savage Planet. I liked it a lot, but $60, no. Maybe $40 game, maybe, but 60 is a bit much. Ori wasn't $60, but this game was worth more than the 30 I paid for it. This was worth like $40 or $50. Maybe even 60. This is a great freaking game. Sunset Overdrive is really good, not worth $60. Really good, not worth $60. Level 5 Guardians was not worth $60, and I'm ashamed to have said that I spent not that much money, actually. It wasn't that bad. I spent $30 on it, so it's about what it's worth. Again, not worth $60. Again, at launch, to buy the full game with all the characters available, the fact that they still charge DLC for new characters, Killer Instinct was not worth $60 at launch. Not worth $60 at launch. And I have plenty more PS4 games and Xbox 360 games and whatever stuff that's been out that is not worth $60 that I had to pay $60 for. And the point I'm trying to make is that a lot of games already don't hit that mark. In fact, arguably most games don't. So the fact that I'm debating whether or not games are worth $60 just kind of goes to show the irony of charging $70. The fact that they want to price hike the games, I just don't think is actually going to fundamentally happen. What this will do for me, if it goes up to $70, if the games go to $70 and there's no change to MTX, which I just don't think there will be, I'm just gonna not buy new games at release. I'm already at that point where I kind of don't want to. Like right now, as I'm recording this video, the next two big games that are coming out are Ghosts of Tsushima and Paper Mario Origami King, come out the same day. And actually Bloodstained Curse of the Moon 2 comes out like today, and that's a cheaper budget title, which I'm more interested in buying. The reality is I don't know if Ghost of Tsushima is going to be good, and I'm terrified to spend $60 on it, but I'm excited for the game itself. And Paper Mario Origami King, I just have no faith in at all, so paying $60 for that is just not worth it. I will wait. In both of these cases, there's a part of me that says, wait, if it wasn't for the fact that I made videos on video games, I wouldn't buy them immediately. The reason I buy them immediately is for the things I stated before, and the fact that I make videos on them. However, I think I may just hit a point where I'm going to be making content about games that are slightly older, because the thought of having to spend $70 every couple weeks or whatever, every week on new games that aren't worth it just to make videos on it, isn't appealing to me. And especially that's something that I'm trying to apply productivity to the game. It doesn't even matter, especially if I'm someone who's going to pay like for games that I'm just going to spend $70 on and not make videos on. Those are going to be even less likely for me to buy. All in all, they're not worth it already. So why the heck would I spend more?